Hellen Keller once said, "Optimism is the faith that leads to achievement. Nothing can be done without hope and confidence." Tonight, Amanda Chan, student at McMaster University, will discuss the relationship between self-confidence and achievement through the end of attribution theory and linguistics. She will talk about how positive thoughts play a role in perseverance, motivation, and self-esteem, and how anyone can train themselves to become more confident. With the speech entitled "The Confidence Interval," please help me welcome Amanda Chan.
Thank you. So I'm just going to share my screen really quick. Oh, can you see it? Can everyone see my screen? Okay, give me a sec. Okay, great. So growing up, I was a very shy and anxious kid. I would often refrain from answering questions in class because I always thought that I had the wrong answers and I would just get made fun of. I quickly gave up on things that I wasn't really good at. I wasn't somebody who would approach others and become friends with them first because I was always afraid of being annoying or uncool. That's why growing up, there were a lot of experiences I passed up on because I didn't feel capable of doing them. Looking back, I just wonder why I didn't believe in myself. Why did I blame myself and call myself not smart enough or not cool enough? I found that I've had to learn unlearn these negative things about myself in order to catch up with the rest of my peers. And so confidence is something that I've always been chasing, something I always wanted to gain for myself. But of course, confidence isn't something you can get by doing more things or even succeeding at those things. Confidence is something that allows you to succeed. I'm currently going into my third year of cognitive science of language, which is like the psychology stream of linguistics. And so I was required to take a course on research methods and a course on statistics. One of our assignments was to write a research paper on any linguistic related variables, such as literacy skills, like spelling, vocabulary, grammar, and its relationship with a population variable, such as gender, nationality or race, or household income. So my group and I decided to do some research on how socioeconomic status affects a child's literacy skills, particularly their reading performance. This study is a pretty old one, but it was significant because it was the first time the researchers had studied the relationship between attribution theory, socioeconomic status, and reading ability all at once. If you don't know what attribution theory is, it's basically this psychological theory that we all assign reasons to our own successes and failures. For example, you might feel that you did well on a test because you're good at math. So how the study worked, very quickly, I'll just go over how it worked. They basically took participants from schools in Eastern Newfoundland, which was the province with the highest child poverty rate in Canada. And they did an experiment on both the parents and the child. And the parents and the child had to sort of fill out this survey, and which I'll talk about later. They first grouped the kids from low, moderate, and high reading performance, and they studied kids grade 3, 6, and 9 just to get a range of ages. And the survey that they gave the parents and the child were something that looked kind of like this. So they would ask, when your child or when you do well at reading, it is because you worked hard. And then they would rate from a scale of 1 to 7 how true they believe this statement to be. So the 7 variables that they identified in this study that people could sort of attribute their success or their performance to were effort, intellectual ability, good teaching, liking reading, help at home, ease of the reading material, and luck. And I think they're pretty straightforward. Basically, how hard do you think that you are working on your own reading? How naturally talented do you feel that you are at reading? Whether or not you feel that your teachers are doing a good job at teaching you, and how passionate you are about reading. So if you are a child that really likes to read, then you'll practice it more and you'll naturally get better at it. And of course, if your parents are helping you at home, then that could also be a factor to why you're doing well. And then for ease of the reading material, this is just how the child feels about the reading. So if they feel that it is easier, that might be the reason why they feel they're doing better. And finally, luck is basically any sort of external force that they feel is helping them that they don't control. So the factors are sort of grouped into 3 dimensions. Number one is stability, which are factors that don't really change, such as your natural ability to do something. Number two is controllability, which are factors that can be controlled, such as the amount of effort you're putting into your reading, and just anything that you yourself can manipulate. And finally, locus, which is how somebody attributes their success or failure. Is it on internal or external factors? An example of internal factor would be your own ability or the effort that you're putting into something. And external factors are things such as luck or somebody helping you or having a good teacher. So the theories behind the study were the main thing was about the socioeconomic status and how people from low-income families feel this lack of control in their lives. They feel that they can't control their environment, and so they're more likely to emphasize external factors when discussing their successes and failures. Another thing is that parents and children will have directly related attributions. So how a parent feels about their child's success is how the child will feel about their own success. And finally, mediating effect. So in the study, they only looked at people who were in low-income families because they wanted to see how a person's mindset can sort of mediate these effects of poverty within, this one group. And to sum it up, the results of the study were what they were sort of expecting to find, which is that people who are high achievers will attribute their good performances to their internal factors, like their own passion for reading or their own ability for reading. And they will tend to sort of see low performance as factors that they don't control, like the reading being too difficult. On the other hand, low achievers will see bad reading as due to their own personal characteristics or insufficiencies. And they'll see good reading as maybe just due to luck or because other people have helped them. And so they're more likely to attribute their success to things that they don't really control. And the summary of the child versus parent attributions is that child and parents will tend to attribute their successes and failures to the same thing. So if the child feels that they're not doing well because of an external factor, the child will also feel that way. But what they did find is that even when the child attributes poor reading to their own ability, their parents do not. And well, we don't know if this is maybe because the parents didn't want to blame their child and whether or not they really do feel this way, but something that was also significant was the effect of age. So the older the students got, the more similar their thought processes were to their parents, which makes sense because they're getting older, but they're also more likely to see things such as getting help from others as a negative thing compared to younger kids who might see getting help as a positive thing. But older kids might feel, oh, it's my own ability that's not good enough. That's why I need help. And they're more likely to take a personal responsibility for their failures. So in conclusion, I just feel that, I'm not the most confident person and I won't act as if like I've got everything figured out. But what the study didn't really talk about was, I guess, how, like, maybe they didn't really talk about whether it was, do people form negative thoughts as a result of their own abilities or the performances, or is it because, or is their achievement due to how they feel? For example, do the high achievers do well because they feel that they are smart and good at something, or is it just that the lower achievers are being realistic about their own abilities? So what I kind of want to talk about is how personally I believe that confidence is the key to success. And the reason I think this is there was a point I mentioned before, which was that um, actually, I think, I don't remember if I mentioned this or not, but um, you're more likely to give up on something if you feel that something that you're not doing well at something because of your own abilities. So if I feel that I'm not good at something, I will feel that there's no point in me trying because it's just not something I'm naturally good at. And so having this lack of control, like perceived control, actually causes people to want to give up more easily and stops them from persevering through that difficulty. And so I'm just going to list a bunch of things that I guess I've learned about confidence and what I feel will help other people become more confident. So a lot of times um, when you read self-help books, they will basically list a bunch of things that you can do, or they'll try to convince you that you can like fake it until you make it. But for me, I think the most important thing about confidence is being comfortable with failing, making mistakes, and being rejected. When you face a difficulty, do you just try your best to avoid it, or do you just like give up once you've tried once? I'd say I'm a horrible combination of doing both bad habits. But the irony is that, it's not always about succeeding. Confidence is about being comfortable with not being perfect, but knowing that you don't you're not lacking as a person just because you're not good at something. I also think that you need to have this mindset that you have nothing to lose. And the only way you can feel that is once you've hit rock bottom. I think a lot of people feel that they're not allowed to fail and they don't want to fail because of this feeling of like losing their pride or risking this feeling of rejection. But when you failed so many times, you can no longer feel that fear of failure. And that's when you're able to bounce back and keep trying until you can do it. Another thing is that you have to understand that failure is not just like a bitter side effect of succeeding. It's actually the mother of success. That is, if you're able to accept, your failure and try again, that is what defines you as a person. And the people around you can try to give you advice on how to avoid failure, but personally, I believe that it's impossible to never fail, and experience is the best teacher. Another thing is that positive thought plays a really important role in perseverance, motivation, and self-esteem. Obviously, I don't like boasting about myself or blaming my failures on other things. But if you start to believe that your failures are because of your own shortcomings, you're definitely more likely to give up. Finally, I wanted to discuss another finding that they found in the study, which was that younger children don't tend to take as much personal responsibility for their failures. They just do things to the best of their ability, and they don't see the negatives of, for example, getting help from others. And I think that we have to go back to when we were younger and people hadn't told you negative things about your abilities or how smart you are. And finally, I wanted to talk about confidence through a more like linguistic lens. So obviously people aren't rational thinkers, and there's a lot going on in our minds that we don't really understand. The study was sort of created in a way that the participants had to verbalize their thoughts about themselves. So it was theorized that before this experiment, most people don't understand or are aware of what they attribute their successes and failures to. That's why language is important, especially with yourself. Just like the way the parents' language about their child can influence how the child feels about themselves, so do the words that you say to yourself. And I think an important thing is to actually rewire your thoughts to become more positive. For example, while I was thinking about what to write for this presentation, I was talking aloud to myself and I kept saying, like, I can't do this. I'm not good at writing. I'm not good at giving presentations. And my mom heard me and she kind of called me out on it. And I decided to instead say aloud, I can do this, and I've done presentations in the past that went fine. So I can trust my own abilities this time. And in the end, I think confidence is just having this trust in yourself and unlearning the negative things that you've been taught about yourself. And that's basically just what I wanted to share, and like thoughts that I had about confidence. So I just wanted to know what your thoughts are. Thank you for listening.